Yeah,
You know,
and you mentioned the name Debo, which I think is a good transition because kind of wrapping up our football talk here before we get into some NBA playoffs. But we talked a little bit earlier just about wide receivers not coming to training camp, and right now I think the first name on that list is Debo Samuel, with just how incredible he was last year for the 49ers and the disrespect he's been receiving from that fan base recently. He requested a trade today, I believe it was.
mhm.
Any team would be happy to have him. What do you make of his situation?
Yeah, his situation is really interesting. It's kind of wild because going into this offseason, I don't think that Debo would have been one of the names that you're like, he's unhappy, he wants a trade. But
Hmm.
then it started picking up. And part of the reason it started picking up, I think, is because of how they do utilize him. Kyle Shanahan does not give a single shit of what will happen in his career, in my opinion. He uses him as a wide receiver and a running back. He gave him so many touches last year, which like from a fantasy perspective, like we're like, hell yeah, like that's awesome. But from a wide receiver perspective, he's getting beat every single play. And
Hmm.
you know what? He's not getting any more money for it. Like all it is going to shorten his career span. And that's why I think that he ultimately said I don't know if this is true, but if I was Debo, I would say to Kyle Shanahan, I'm a receiver. Use me as a receiver. And if you want to use me as a running back, I'm out because that's going to just shorten his lifespan
Yeah.
of being a receiver. Like it's great. He fit the role perfectly. I think it made more sense for a guy like Cordell Patterson, whose career basically didn't take off until he became a wide back.
Yeah.
Debo is a young stud receiver, second round receiver, and his career will take a massive hit if, in my opinion, and I could be wrong, but I just think that that's the case.
Yeah. And if they're not able to figure something out with Debo, if I'm the Packers, I'm doing everything I can to get in touch with him and
Me too.
bring him to
I
Green
would
Bay.
do anything if I was the Packers.
Anything?
Anything. No, I mean, look, like they don't have a receiving option outside of Alan Lazard. They lost MVS. They lost Devontae Adams. Who knows if they have corn on the cob? I don't.
They do.
They do.
But yeah, he's old, so
Yeah, and
he's
Amari
turning
Rogers.
he's turning into popcorn.
that
That was a
was
horrible joke.
that was pretty
But,
bad.
let's
I was with you. Um,
thank you.
you're welcome. I just think that yeah, or even if the Chiefs, but the Chiefs I think was more about the money than it was the age. I think I don't know. I would pick up the phone if I'm any NFL team. Debo makes my team better. Um, and if I'm the Jets, I bet you the Jets are where he ends up. I'm gonna put that on here right now. Jumpstart Sports, episode 17. Topic we're talking about where these receivers going. Debo will be a Jet. You're welcome, Jack. Speaking that into existence.
Well, after that comment, I think we should transition to another wide receiver, which
Don't
is
you
an
think that makes
interesting
sense?
which is an
Robert
interesting,
Sala, right? It
yeah,
checks.
yeah. But what do you make of AJ Brown's situation? He erased the Titans from his Twitter
Right,
bio.
right.
They lose Julio Jones, which he didn't do anything for them. They bring in Robert Woods. His whole Chipotle thing last year, he didn't.
Yeah.
He had a decent year, but he still has so much talent. I would not be surprised if he's out of Tennessee come training camp time.
Really? So I
Mhm.
actually think that, in my opinion, I think he's the one that's for sure going to get an extension.
You think
I think
so?
he's I think he's too big of a part of this whole team, and I think that every person or receiver takes him off social media nowadays, and like that's supposed to be super symbolic or whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I was listening to Diana Rossini, who's pretty tapped in, and she's like, yeah, they're doing anything they can to keep AJ. Mike Vrabels went on the McAfee show and said AJ's not going anywhere. This
Yeah,
is
but
one of those situations that
it's his decision at the end of the day, though. People can say that all they want,
totally,
and social media has a way of spinning things. But
yes, you're
you know,
totally right.
who knows what's going through AJ Brown's head?
Yeah, and he's definitely responded to a lot of the Twitter commentary of basically calling him out for wanting more money and
Mhm.
holding out. But he's ultimately doing what's best for him and his family, and I don't blame him for he is their entire offense besides from Derrick Henry. So
Yeah.
I do not blame him for holding out, wanting the money he deserves. I think he will get it because he's like what 24, like
Yeah.
he's so good.
And I didn't see them beating the Bengals in the playoffs, but
Me either.
they're a team that could easily get to the AFC Championship game again this year, and
Mhm.
adding Bobby Trees, and if they can reel back in AJ Brown and all that, and keep King Henry healthy, they're another team to watch out for in the AFC once again.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Moving on in terms of these receivers, I mean, we got Terry McLaurin, Scary Terry. Talked a little bit about. This is the one that I just don't know. I am not even slightly sure because the Commanders, I feel like, have never had a receiver where they were ever going to extend him like this. Um,
Yeah, I
you
think
know,
this is kind of like I think they'll re-sign him, but it's like a 1 year thing, and this is his like last chance because he's just like he's so talented and he's tired. I think he wants to win, obviously like he's tired of losing. And bold prediction after this season, Wentz isn't going to work out. Heineke's not going
yeah,
to work out. Why would you want to play for a team where you can't? They just can't figure out their quarterback situation. So with
or
how
their front
talented,
office.
yeah, with how talented he is, he could very well he deserves the money, but he could also take a pay cut and go to a team that is actually winning.
Yeah, I could see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I mean, Terry's so much better than his quarterback play. It's gross.
Hmm.
Um, Even to think about all of the quarterbacks he's played with and succeeded with, it's nuts. Um, Also, what a story! Like third round pick out of Ohio
Yeah.
State after Paris Campbell and showed out. I don't know. He's
Hmm.
awesome. Um, I hate that he's on that team. Anyway, so the next one. This one is less of a concern. I feel like we don't agree necessarily on this one, but DK Metcalf and the Seahawks. Well, why don't you go into what you feel like will happen and your take on this first?
Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of articles I've been reading about just him being traded for some type of draft pick or two in the first round and going somewhere else. I think DK is in a similar situation where, being a little bit of a baby with the pacifier he wears, he didn't have a great year last year. And rather than kind of manning up and taking responsibility for it, they're in a situation now where they don't have like a good quarterback and they could very well be just as bad as they were last year. So rather than having to deal with that, kind of just follow Russell Wilson out the door. And I could see him, wanting to request a trade or just go somewhere where he has a chance to, bounce back. And he is so talented. He's so big, and you saw what he did last 2 seasons ago. Like he has the talent, um,
Mm.
but I wouldn't be surprised if he's not a Seahawk this upcoming year.
Yeah, I think I definitely this one I definitely disagree with you on. I think that DK is such a like why would you trade a pillar of your offense if you're trying to rebuild the whole team? So that's like where my mind goes. If I think I don't know how much they really get for him, but if I'm trading anyone on that team, Tyler Lockett's already out the
Yeah,
door.
especially because Lockett's getting older.
Yeah, like I think that DK is an ascending 23, 24-year-old receiver who's again, I mean, like he had a tough year last year, but he still played really well.
Hmm.
Um, I just cannot imagine them moving on from Bobby Wagner, Russell Wilson, and DK. Like then it's just admitting you're starting over, right?
Yeah.
So that's just well, honestly though, like this is a. I guess we should probably discuss Deontay Johnson, but again, that's another one I really don't have a read on because I don't think he's really being talked about like
Yeah,
this.
he's not, but he'll probably be in a Steeler uniform this year.
Yeah. Um, so this kind of brings me to a larger question, and it's kind of it's an all encompassing question about these receivers. It's like how much leverage do they have? Does it matter how talented you are? How replaceable are you? Because ultimately, the 49ers, right? Or here's a better example. Let's go to the Chiefs. Chiefs lost arguably the most dynamic player in the NFL, Tyreek Hill.
Hmm.
All but like with the crazy receiver talent, you can obviously tell by our mock draft earlier, there are a lot of receivers in this draft. And there are a lot of receivers in many of these drafts that are coming out, outperforming their like draft capital and being so good. does it matter that they traded such a vital piece to their team when replacing and gaining more draft capital elsewhere? What do you think?
Yeah, it's tough because it really, you could say it could go either way. There are certain wide receivers who can't be replaced, like Tyreek Hill. Yeah, they bring in Juju, but
Yeah,
he's not gonna be that threat that Tyreek Hill is. You get rid of Debo Samuel, you're not going to be able to replace what he was able to do last year. Um, so it is like yes and no, but like you said, there's so many receivers in this draft class that it's very possible that some of these receivers can be replaced. Like you look at the Chargers, if they take someone like Chris Olave, he's someone who where like they just gave Mike Williams that huge contract, but say they didn't and they got rid of him, he's someone who could like be replaced, but
yeah,
it
it's
really just
definitely
it
up
really
there.
just like it depends on the player and where they are in their career and how much money they're making.
Yeah, I think like for Debo's case at least, they kind of already have their replacement. Like Ayuk, his first year at least, he obviously didn't have a great second year. His first year, he was doing all of the same stuff, like the yards after catch. He's obviously not as talented as Debo. He's not going to be the wide back, like
Mhm.
whatever that Kyle Shanahan wants. Um, but he's majorly talented. He kind of just needed opportunity, and Kittle didn't really do anything last year. And he's
Mhm.
ridiculously talented too. With a whole new offense under Trey Lance, I mean, who knows, right? Like, I think it's easy. Like, you could not easy, but you can definitely replace Debo Samuel.
Treyway. I think Trey
Um,
Lance is gonna have a good year.
I don't know. I think that I think I don't know. I don't think so actually. Like I think that fantasy wise he will, but I don't think he's a good
I
quarterback.
think he has not big shoes to fill, but he's put in a big situation where he needs to ball out. And I think there's a reason they drafted him. There's a reason Jimmy G is not the starter anymore. And if they can bring back Debo and you have Kittle who needs to bounce back, um, I wouldn't be surprised that he has a good year. But we
I'd
shall
argue
see.
that I'd argue they had 3 first-round picks invested into him. So even if they didn't think he was ready, they don't have a choice. They have to put him out there. But like, you have like a Jordan Love who maybe will never see a football field again. So whatever.